Good morning and welcome everyone to online worship at Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Church. I am Tim Atkins, pronouns he, him, your Director of Lifespan Religious Education. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are joining us from, whatever your beliefs, gender identity and expression, immigration status, life circumstance, we welcome you to worship this morning. Joanne Jersey, today's pastoral visitor, is on the YouTube chat. There will be times throughout the service for you to engage with her. If you are joining us for the first time today, please let our greeter Stu and Kathy Grubbin know in the chat. Newcomers are invited to complete the form that will be linked there. We'll have instructions near the end of the service for a Zoom room for newcomers after worship, to connect, to get to know one another, and to answer your questions about Cedar Lane or Unitarian Universalism in general. We hope that you will join us. Come, let us worship together.
Buenos días y bienvenidos. I am the Reverend Katie Romano Griffin, your associate minister. My pronouns are she, her, and at this time, I'd like to invite you to please greet your neighbors. You may do so in the chat. Thank you. As the first hint of green begins to peek through the barren ground, as that little sprig grows into a healthy stem, as that stem grows into a stalk and forms a bud, as that bud opens with each new day to form a yellow daffodil, let us be like that first hint of green, renewed by the warm sun's rays, and ready ourselves to emerge with a new energy. Let us get ready to face life on earth in this new day.
Hello, I'm Nancy Wilkinson, Chair of the Environmental Justice Ministry. My pronouns are she and her. If you have a chalice at home, you're invited to light yours now.
Let us know in the chat where you are by writing "The chalice is lit" in your neighborhood, town, or wherever else you are in the world. I am lighting mine in Bethesda, Maryland. Please join Kathleen Holmé in the reading of the chalice lighting words on your screen.
Fire and water, ancient opposites. Sun, sea, and soil, cradle of life. Dancing flame and dancing river. Transform us as we kindle our light.
My name is Rosie Clemens-Cope. I'm 11 years old, and I speak for the children. I was inspired by Greta Thunberg to lead Fridays for the Future walk-ins last year at Chevy Chase Elementary School. When I started doing Fridays for the Future, nobody at my school was talking about the climate crisis. The kids told me that they heard about climate change at my Fridays for the Future walk-ins for the first time. Climate change is not just some future problem. The Earth has warmed by 2 degrees in the last century. Every day, kids and their families are dealing with storms, floods, fires, and hurricanes. Our oceans are choking with trash, and the 6th mass extinction is well underway. Thanks to all of you for taking this seriously, and thanks to the Unitarian Universalist congregation for inviting me, my sister, to speak today. But I need you to understand that you need to do more. Talk to your family and your neighbors. Ask them to read and listen to the science of climate change. Tell them that their kids' futures depend on what they really understand. Tell them that kids are mad that adults trash the planet, and we are going to be in the streets until adults get the courage to fix this. This is not just about straws and hamburgers, and it's not just about your gas-guzzling SUVs. This is about figuring out how to change our entire economy to save the planet and our futures. Scientists say we only have 10 years left to avoid a climate catastrophe. They say that we need to have 0 carbon emissions by 2030. And if we can't reach that, we will have started an uncontrollable chain reaction that will lead to the end of civilization as we know it. I am so grateful that you are here to do all the hard work that needs to be done to educate yourselves and to support policies that will give us a chance. If you fight for the children by demanding that our politicians make policies to get to zero carbon emissions, if you fight for the children by listening to the voices that usually get ignored, if you fight for the children by working together with your local climate change groups, we will change the world.
Hi, my name is Eleanor Clemens-Cope, Rosie's sister, and I'm a 10th grader at Richard Montgomery High School in Rockville. I've been active in social justice pretty much since I was born, but I didn't become a climate activist until my little sister Rosie started her Fridays for Future walk-ins at elementary school. She's the one who told me to go read up on climate science. I'm a numbers person, and the numbers about climate change scared me. I realized that this is a crisis, and we don't have any time to lose. Forest fires in California, and the floods in the Midwest, and the hurricanes in Texas and Puerto Rico and the Bahamas, and even epidemics like COVID-19 are all fueled by the climate catastrophe. The greatest impacts will be on the people who are the most vulnerable: low-income people, indigenous people, people of color, and children. And if we don't do enough over the next 11 years, my generation won't have a future. We, the young people, are angry with adults for being so selfish that our future may be destroyed before we have the chance to vote. But we're also ready to fight, and it's you all who are going to help us get this done. So we're asking you to do a few things. First, get involved in action. If you're under 35, join the Sunrise Movement, an amazing group dedicated to building people power and political power to pass a Green New Deal. If you're an MCPS student, contact Rosie or me about getting involved in our local climate organizing group, MoCo on Climate, pushing to make MCPS teach kids the science of climate change and cut their enormous greenhouse gas emissions. And if you're older than 35, join Extinction Rebellion or 350 Movement, or one of the other amazing groups organizing to fight the climate crisis. Second, climate change is a systems problem, and we need to change the system to solve it. This means that any fight for justice is part of the climate fight. So when kids rally for gun safety or for LGBTQ rights, or when workers ask for livable wages, get out there and support them, and they will support you too. It's called solidarity. Third, get involved in elections. Research candidates' positions on climate change and social justice, even and especially candidates for local office. And then register as many people as you can to get out and vote. This year, we're going to win this fight at the ballot box. And lastly, support my sister and me and the other students in MoCo on Climate that are pressuring MCPS to go green. Sign our petition at bit.ly/MoCoClimate. This is the biggest crisis civilization has ever faced. And we're going to need enough solidarity to see how climate justice and social justice connect, enough courage to speak truth to power, and enough hope to keep us going. Thank you.
To see it through, oh, evergreen, ever blue. At this point in time, it's up to me, it's up to you. Amazon is calling, help this planet Earth, with voices from the jungle. Help this planet Earth. Hear the tree that's calling. Help this planet Earth. Rainforests are crying. Help this planet Earth to stay evergreen, ever blue as it was in the beginning. We've got to see it through, oh, evergreen, ever blue. At this point in time, it's up to me, it's up to you. Ocean's wave is rumbling, help this planet Earth, with voices from the seaway. Help this planet Earth. Water to see it through. Oh, evergreen, ever blue. At this point in time, it's up to me, it's up to you. Right now is when we're needed. We can all do something, young and all together. 'Cause the more we get together, the more we help this planet Earth. So come all United Nations, help this planet Earth. Children of one planet, help this planet Earth. With love for one another, help this planet Earth. For all our children's future, help this planet Earth to stay evergreen, ever blue as it was in the beginning. We've got to see it through. Oh, evergreen, ever blue. At this point in time, it's up to me, it's up to you. This evergreen and ever blue. It's up to me, it's up to you. This evergreen and ever blue. It's up to me, it's up to you. Help this planet Earth. It's up to me. Help this planet Earth. Help this planet Earth. It's up to you. Help this planet Earth. Help this planet Earth. Help this planet Earth. Help this planet Earth.
Today, we take the time to acknowledge all the existing losses as the world feels the effects of global climate change. People, animals, plants, and entire ecosystems die every year from these effects. As we acknowledge these losses, I invite you to respond, we remember you. To all who have suffered losses to extreme heat waves, we remember you. To all who have suffered losses due to floods, hurricanes, mudslides, and disasters, we remember you. To all who have suffered from hunger as crop patterns change, we remember you. To all who have suffered from drought as weather patterns change, we remember you. To all who have suffered from disease as the environment shifts, we remember you. To all those animals, beloved siblings of flesh and blood, feather and fin, breath, gill, and bone, whose lives have been lost due to climate change, we remember you. To all those plant spirits, precious siblings of the green world, whose lives have been lost as climates change, we remember you. To all those species lost forever as the climate changes, we remember you. We remember you and we commit ourselves to restoring balance. So may it be. Amen.
Thank you, Katie, for that beautiful litany. Now I invite you to join us in a time of prayer and reflection. Consider closing your eyes or softening your gaze. Feel your body in your chair. Feel your feet on the ground and your hands in your lap as we pray together. Spirit of life, holy and sacred Mother Earth, we remember all that has been lost and ask for your forgiveness. Because you are within us and we are within you. We are indelibly connected to you, Mother Earth. And we are eternally grateful for all that the gifts that you offer us. Thank you. Thank you for the daily reminders that creation and destruction, life and death are bound to each other and bound together. Even as we mourn the losses of this great pandemic, you show us your rapid healing and resilience. There are calm blue waters in Venice, bears and coyotes flourishing in Yosemite, and crystal clear skylines from New Delhi to LA. May your resilience be an inspiration to us and an inspiration to cherish our connections with you in everything that we do. And this Sunday, we hold in our hearts John Woodward, whose father, Taylor Woodward, passed away on Thursday. And we hold in our hearts all who are experiencing losses and grieving in these unusual circumstances. May we each find a way to mourn and connect and love. Amen.
For the beauty of the earth, for the splendor of the skies, for the love which from our birth over and around us lies, source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the joy of ear and eye, for the heart and mind's delight, for the mystic harmony, linking sense to sound and sight, source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the wonder of each hour, of the day and of the night, hill and vale and tree and flower, sun and moon and stars of light, source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the joy of human care, sister, brother, parent, child, for the kinship we all share, for all gentle thoughts and mild, source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise.
Hi, my name is Andrew McFarland. I am in the 4th grade Sing to the Power class. My quote for the Earth is from Johann Rockström on climate change. We would never consider this level of risk in any other walk of life, yet we seem prepared to take this risk with our planet. Conversely, the scientific evidence shows that we can create a positive future, but only with bold action now.
A religious community is like a river, formed from many streams of our lives that meet and merge and flow to the sea. Members and friends of this religious community share our time, talent, and treasure, like streams, to create a river that is both deep and broad. A river that is made of these many streams sustains life and refreshes the land through which it flows. Each Sunday we take up an offering as treasurer to support the ministry of Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Church. Our offering is an extension of our gratitude for our spiritual home and to bless each other and the world with our gifts. I have been moved deeply by your generosity of treasure to Cedar Lane UU Church. Last week, we raised more than $3,000 to support CAN's new COVID-19 emergency fund in our Share the Plate program, where we give half the offering to an organization that is doing work that aligns with our Unitarian Universalist values. This week's Share the Plate is recipient Mid-County United Ministries, also called MUM. And Betsy Binks is going to share a little bit about this crucial ministry.
This Sunday's collection will be shared with Mid-County United Ministries, who serves the Kensington, Wheaton, Silver Spring areas, which have the highest incidence of poverty and food insecurity in Montgomery County and one of the highest incidences of COVID-19 in Maryland. Among those that MUM serves are individuals who are undocumented with no safety net or ability to access government programs. MUM is a lifeline for these people. Additionally, MUM is seeing individuals who have never sought out food assistance before. With proof of residency in these zip codes that MUM serves, they are able to receive about a 20-pound bag of groceries along with other additional items like bread, milk, fruit, and vegetables that are donated. While food assistance is the most critical need right now, MUM also helps clients with eviction prevention, utility cutoff prevention, emergency prescription drug assistance, and emergency referrals.
Thank you, Betsy. I have given my gifts to Mom these past couple of weeks, and I invite you now to give your treasure in this morning's offering, and consider giving your time and talent at a later time. As accompanist Dr. Jasmine Lee plays a special song online, our offering will now be joyfully given and gratefully received. Please give generously as you are able. You can give by electronic means of the modern era, text, online giving, PayPal, QR code, or by the ancient spiritual practice of mailing a check to the church. Thanks again for your generosity and support.
In the words of the Reverend Lynn Unger, through the work of our hearts and the work of our hands, our love is made real. We are grateful for all that you bring and all that you share to make love real at Cedar Lane and in our world.
There is a brokenness out of which comes the unbroken, a shatteredness out of which blooms the unshatterable. There is a sorrow beyond all grief that leads to joy, and a fragility out of whose depths emerges strength.
What will you do to protect the earth?
What will you do to protect the earth?
What will you do to protect the earth?
The earth is a wonderful place. It probably doesn't think that from how we are trashing it. Let's try to get the earth on our side. If temperatures keep rising, then natural habitats will disappear and so will the life in them. And if that's not enough, the ice in the Arctic will be gone by 2050 if we don't do anything. That would include the extinction of nearly 5,500 species. So, what is the world gonna look like in 1,000 years if we don't do anything? And what would it look like in 1,000 years if everyone took more action?
The earth is a wonderful place, with flowers to look at and trees to help us breathe. People damage the earth every day without even knowing it, by littering or not picking up after their pets. We don't notice how our actions destroy our forests and oceans. Burning forests and polluting coral reefs kill habitats for some animals, which brings us to the fact that nearly 40,000 species are endangered mainly from human causes.
The Earth is a wonderful place that's a part of everyone's community. We should be doing whatever we can to help and protect it, because it's the only planet we have. We as UUs believe in the value of every person and living thing. We believe that justice is served by protecting the environment, as no one person or government owns the Earth. Also, we respect the existence of all because we're all connected and dependent on a healthy environment for our future. We should all help in any way we can, even the littlest things, because even the littlest of things we do can help the great impact on the world.
What will you do to protect the Earth?
What will you do to protect the Earth?
What will you do to protect the Earth?
I wish this was our garden. So we could just hide.
Once upon a time, Chuck and Anita watched their baby wave goodbye as she walked into her college dorm to start her freshman year. As the heavy glass door slammed, they continued to wave, but she didn't look back. They felt numb, and the sound of that glass door slamming reminded them that they were well and truly alone with each other. A quiet, empty house awaited, a place without last-minute PB&J sandwiches hastily stuffed into a paper sack at 6 a.m., a place without oranges to slice up for track meets. Life on Earth had changed for them in the blink of an eye. They sighed as they settled in their seats and never spoke as they drove that 8 hours home. Only the sound of 80s hairband power ballads filled the space between them as they held hands and watched the trees beside the road pass them by. Anita had planned for this day when the PTA meetings would end and the booster club no longer needed them. She'd read all the books about this time of grief and of potential beginnings. She was ready to take up writing, to get a personal trainer, to have more time with her girlfriends, to enjoy the flexibility in her time. So the very next day, she began her phase 2 in life. And occasionally, Chuck would find her in their daughter's room, folding and refolding her clothes with tears in her eyes. But she seemed to be thriving in other ways. But Chuck, not so much. Chuck wasn't ready for this shift. So he turned to binge watching Star Trek as he settled into the silence and waited for inspiration. He watched Anita drift farther from him. He wasn't sure what to do or how to address things with her. They didn't seem to have problems to solve together over parenting or even carpools to negotiate. One day, a commercial caught his attention. It was of a guy his age working out with these awesome new noise-canceling headphones that not only guided you through a daily workout, but also allowed you to listen to audiobooks free for an entire year. The guy on the video was happy. He was running with his wife. He was fit. They were chatting. He seemed vital and alive. And darn it, Chuck wanted that. He wanted that life. Courtesy of the deities of overnight delivery and their privilege, Chuck's new life began the next day. He invited Anita on walks with him, and she went. They even held hands. And for him, it was a dream coming true. But he noticed quickly that when he tried to engage her around the books he was listening to, she ignored him. A week passed, and it seemed like she talked less and less to him. Was she losing interest in him? Panicked, he started working out more and more, his books blaring. He listened to coaching books, and he listened to cooking books, and he tried experimenting with new meals that he could share with Anita, but she didn't seem to answer when he called her in the house, and she still didn't engage with him, even when they went on walks. After weeks of this, he couldn't take it anymore. Anita was at the stove cooking, and he approached her from behind, thinking he could ease into this difficult conversation. Anita, he said, what are you making? No answer. He raised his voice. Anita, what are you making? No response. Fear began to fill him. Finally, he shouted, Anita, what are you making? Anita spun towards him, eyes narrowed, expression harried. She ripped off his headphones and said, for the last time, will you stop wearing these things in the house? And all the time, you can't hear a thing I say. We're having stir fry for the third time. Stir fry. I love this story for a number of reasons. For starters, it references 80s hairband power ballads, and I'm a fan. But it also shows what we can happen when we try to do what Brene Brown calls the zigzag around difficult times or conversations. For instance, instead of talking about his feelings with Anita, Chuck did a zigzag. He went and purchased headphones. Then it took weeks for him to confront Anita about his fears, his concerns about their drifting apart, and his concerns that they hadn't really spoken for weeks. And it took weeks for Anita to finally pull off those headphones. And I can only hope that they were able to engage in what Brene Brown calls rumbling with vulnerability through a courageous conversation after this part of the story ended. I know a lot of us are feeling vulnerable right now. A lot of things have changed, but I'm going to ask you to lean into that vulnerability with me today, to rumble with me as we have a courageous conversation about the earth and about our shared future. As we mere and mighty humans wrestle with COVID-19, our own illness, lost or ill loved ones, disrupted food supply chains, job losses, homeschooling, canceled special events, isolation, and the many more impacts of this pandemic, we are struggling, just like Chuck and Anita, with a new life on Earth. Climate change is not an intellectual theory. Interdependence is not some warm, fuzzy philosophy. That glass door is closing and the planet isn't looking back to say goodbye. We are well and truly alone with each other. Things are getting real and we need to stop zigzagging around the realities of these changes. We need to rumble. In Revelations chapters 8, verses 6 through 13, a series of angels begin to blow their trumpets, heralding the end of life as it's known. And the first angel blows its trumpet. The result is that a third of the earth is burned up. Today, Greenpeace reports that 80% of the Earth's forests have been destroyed, which is far more than even the worst predictions in Revelations. When the second angel blows its horn, it turns the seas to blood and the fish die. Today, red tide plagues Florida beaches. Each year, thousands of sea life wash up upon the shores, from tiny fish just beginning their lives to giant dolphins and manatees, forever altering the ecosystem. When the third angel blows its trumpet, the result is that a third of the waters of the world that were once drinkable become bitter and undrinkable. Has anyone heard of Flint, Michigan? Furthermore, this April, National Geographic reported that by 2025, an estimated 1.8 billion people will live in areas plagued by water scarcity, with 2/3 of the world's population living in water-stressed regions as a result of use, growth, and climate change. Activists, scientists, and virologists have been stating for decades that this could happen. Climate change models forecast flooding, forced immigration, pandemics, disrupted supply chains, and economic collapse. In an April 15th Washington Post article by Sarah Kaplan, she reveals that while COVID-19 is not exactly related to climate change, zoonotic viruses, which are viruses that can be transmitted from animals to people, like COVID-19 and like Ebola, will increase as the impacts of climate change take root in our society. Kaplan goes on to quote virologist Dave O'Connor from the University of Maryland, and he speaks to what he calls habitat fragmentation and continues with human incursions, including deforestation and disturbed habitats due to rising water levels that will increase contact between humans and animals. O'Connor states you have these complex networks of interactions you wouldn't see under normal circumstances. And that's what provides a lot of opportunities for these diseases to explore alternative hosts and acquire some of the features necessary to jump species. I've heard a lot of people lately who are reporting nightmares about a zombie apocalypse or another post-apocalyptic or dystopian nightmare. It seems both natural and eerily prophetic to have such dreams in times like these. Our society has been for years almost obsessed with dystopian fantasy, and yet, like the words of Revelation, rather than seeing them as a cautionary tale urging us to change, collectively, we seem to be speeding towards these visions of the end. I know I'm one of those zombie apocalypse dreamers. These days I wake up and even feel like I'm living in a dystopian society. Poison water? Check. Global disease? Check. War? Yeah, that doesn't really stop. There's always a war happening somewhere in the world. Economic collapse? It's happening. The most vulnerable among us, especially the poor and our Black and brown siblings, are disproportionately dying as a result of this disease. This is happening. We can no longer zigzag our way around these issues. We cannot ignore the intersectional relationship between our abuse of the environment, consumerism, colonialism, structural racism, patriarchy, and a pending apocalypse. And we cannot just recycle our way around this mess or buy a hybrid and expect it to all go away. That would be like popping on noise-canceling headphones and trying to audiobook our way into a new relationship with a loved one. Unitarian theologian James Luther Adams has offered us some optimism in the form of his 5 smooth stones of our liberal faith. Our tapestry of faith curriculum provides an awesome and approachable summary of these stones that we're going to link in the comments so that you can print it out and tape it to your fridge. I'm going to read you his 5 smooth stones, and then I'm going to give you a summary. Religious liberalism depends on the principle that revelation is continuous. 2. All relations between persons ought ideally to rest on mutual, free consent and not coercion. 3. Religious liberalism affirms the moral obligation to direct one's efforts towards the establishment of a just and loving community. 4. We deny the immaculate conception of virtue and affirm the necessity of social incarnation. 5. Liberalism holds that the resources, divine and human, that are available for the achievement. So revelation is continuous and not fixed. That means that for some of us, God is still talking. It means that we don't have to speed towards that dystopian society. We can, if we listen to the guidance of these 5 smooth stones, choose our way out. We can choose our way out of that future based on new information that we learn and gather. We also get to choose to be an accountable community, not just at Cedar Lane, but with the world. Humans have the capacity and are obliged to be in accountable relationship, to build more justice and love in the world. The divine and human capacities for achieving meaningful change that Adams is pointing towards They exist in the now, in one of my favorite theologians, Catherine Keller, often calls the omnipotential moment, where God is in the many possibilities calling us to good, and our innate desire to choose life's expansion and good is a place where optimism lives, and we must remain optimistic. It's part of resilience. And we're empowered. We're empowered right now to hold both our optimism and our learning, the revelations from this crisis, so that we can make radical changes. And you know what makes me feel optimistic? Meetings that people swore could only happen in person that are happening online, saving tons of gallons of gasoline. Factories repurposing machinery to build something completely new in a matter of weeks in order to respond to this crisis. Human stories of hope and resilience singing from balconies, neighbors planting tomatoes, Cedar Laners delivering groceries and making calls to check in on each other. As Dana mentioned earlier, those photos of a smog-free LA and the clear skylines across the globe. The Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith has said that we are either pushed by pain or pulled by vision, and usually it's a combination of both. We've been feeling the pain. Now, how will we be pulled by vision? In her book, The Resilience Dividend, Being Strong in a World Where Things Go Wrong, author Judith Rodin provides guidance for building more resilient communities by both embracing the pain of disruption and the vision of what is possible. For Rodin, it's not about returning to normal after a disruption, like an earthquake or pandemic or other disaster. It's about returning to a state of something better than was possible before, while also embracing intentionally the diversity and the wisdom of the diversity of our communities as a means to build stronger, more resilient communities. At this crucial time in history, when we are under orders to be in our homes, when we are traveling less, and when the economy is crumbling, what can we do to build more sustainability? Is now the time to seize the moment and retrain those who work in the fossil fuel industry, in the green industry? Do we pump money into those community gardens we've been talking about creating in food deserts and front yards? Do we begin retraining US citizens who are among the worst culprits for destroying the earth? Can we retrain each other to begin to reconnect with the earth? Do we move to a more plant-based diet and away from greenhouse gas producing meat? I believe that we can do this work of resiliency. We can build a better now and a sustainable future. We have to agree to do it. We have to be persistent in this quest. We have to be consistent by changing ourselves internally, making changes in our home, in our community, in public policy at all levels. These things, they are essential. And we don't have to wait until the order to leave home is lifted. Staying home right now can mean more than saving lives in the now. It can mean saving lives in the future. We just have to choose our way out of that apocalyptic future starting right now. The Cedar Lane youth have shared their concerns, their theological grounding, and their calls to justice with us. How are adults in this community in accountable relationship with our youth and children? How will we all embrace this diversity in our community? How will we listen to each other and act? As Adam implores us to do again, We can choose our way out of a dystopian future for all of us, for every creature. In the coming months, we're going to be revising our website and social justice work to help all of us connect with ways to be active in building a better and more resilient world. Contact the social justice team if you have ideas. Right now, you can log on and see the great blogs that the Environmental Justice Ministry team has been writing on gardening. You can find ways to feed ourselves and our neighbors by partnering with Mom, and then look for future ways to support groups like McFax, Sunrise, and Extinction Rebellion. It's time for us to take off the noise-canceling earphones. Life on Earth is what we make of it, and we can make it great for everyone. So let us rumble with our vulnerability. Amen. And blessed be.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, ever harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companion, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Before closing words, I'd like to thank the team who helped make today's service possible. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Environmental Justice Ministry team. Thank you to our 4th and 7th grade teachers. Thank you so much, Rosie and Eleanor Clemens Cope, Andrew McFarland, the 7th grade video production team, which is made up of Griffin, Lupus, Fiona, Narud, Malcolm, and Tycho Narud, Malcolm, Andrea Stumpf, the Azaleas, we thank you, and Scott Malcolm. Thank you to members of our AV team, Barbara Thompson, Don Woodruff, Mike Morris, Todd Chernikoff, Michael McCrickard, Sandy Dossie, and Rebecca Nachtrieb for making the services happen, for creating beautiful slides. Thank you. Thank you to our membership team, our ushers, greeters, and pastoral volunteers who've been active in the live chat. Thank you to our worship team. Thank you, visual arts team members. Thank you to our musicians, Jenny Crane and Elsie Town, Dr. Jasmine Lee, Jenny Lynn Moyer, Rachel Moore, Kevin Miller, and Dr. Henry Segresi. We'd love for you to stay in touch. If you're new to Cedar Lane or Unitarian Universalism, I hope that you will join Roger Santo Domingo and some of the folks from the membership team in the welcome Zoom room, and you're about to see that link come up soon in the chat. And if you're a Cedar Lane member, I hope that you'll join us at Virtual Coffee Hour. That link will also be posted shortly after the service. Now for our closing words. Blessed is the sky and all that is warm and filled with light. Blessed is the air and all that is open and free. Blessed is the earth and all that is steady and firm. Blessed is the sea and all that is hidden and deep. Amen.
2, 3, and go. Come and go. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. Freedom, there'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound, where I'm... Can you groove with me? Freedom to that land. There'll be freedom to that land. There'll be freedom to that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound. And there'll be singing. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. One more time. Come and go with us. Come